bevo.com.
Doug, whether you're the CEO of a major multinational Fortune 500 company or you're the founder of a startup, your job is to identify what the next opportunity or the next major market trend will be. How do you, Doug, Richard, identify or keep your finger on the pulse of what's going to be coming up next?
I think you just spend a lot of time. I mean, what I do is I ask myself a series of questions over and over on a regular basis as things move forward. I mean, what you're talking about is kind of like trend analysis, and I do it all the time. It's not very hard to do. It's like learning how to be creative, right? These things are underused muscles. You got to exercise them. So if you want to do trend analysis constantly, take a very simple everyday thing and ask yourself 6 or 7 questions. I'll give you an example. So there's a restaurant in my neighborhood that I dislike intensely because the first time I ever went there, they had built, I mean, if you think about a restaurant is best understood by its menu. Its menu essentially is what somebody has decided that restaurant will be. Yes, there's ambience, yes, there's location, there's all these things, but it's the only thing they can exercise control over is what they serve you, right? And so you can understand restaurants by their menus. And if you think about it, you could do a trend analysis of restaurants and menus. So let's start with sociological trends. Okay, what are sociological trends that attend to food today in restaurants? There's obesity and provenance, I would assert, were probably the 2 biggest. Provenance means people are caring more and more about where their food comes from. You know this. Otherwise there wouldn't be organics. Otherwise there wouldn't be Hugh Ferning, whatever his name, in on Channel 4 weeping over the death of battery-fed chickens as he breaks their neck. Right? People care about the source of food and they distrust it. We've got a culture of distrust. Therefore, if I were starting a restaurant today, I would probably let people know where my food came from. And guess what? More and more restaurants are. Why are they doing it? Because they know that their customers want it. What else is going on? We're in a recession. It's an economic trend. So what do people do about food in economic recession? Do you happen to know?
They usually order in Domino's pizza. I think that's the reason why Domino's stock's gone up.
That's right. They also tend to retreat to comfort foods. So we all go back to our comfort foods. And I'd be the first to admit, I find British comfort food pretty bizarre. But you would find my comfort food pretty bizarre. I grew up on Kraft macaroni and cheese, which I think is mostly unique because I don't think there's any macaroni or cheese in that product. You know, it's sort of a glowing yellow thing that sits on your plate. But I have very fond memories of that. People in recession retreat to comfort foods. And so if I were starting a restaurant or adapting to survive in a recession, I would probably change my menu to adapt to the taste. Our actual tastes change when we're fearful. Right? The trend analysis. You can predict what people will do reasonably reliably in any situation, in any product, in any industry. The near future is easy to predict. It's what comes beyond the near future that's very awkward.
A lot of people try and go back to what worked or what products and services did well in the last economic recession or the last economic upturn now. Is that a good thing to do, Doug, in your mind? Does it work again?
The past doesn't predict the future at all. You'll misinterpret it. Right? Watching people go from horses to trains would not have predicted much of the societal impact of trains to cars.
Talking about predicting the next big thing on the web, for example, we've obviously had user-generated video content, then we moved into social networks. What do you think the next gigantic thing will be on the horizon?
Most of the trends that we talk about are actually related to very simple concepts, and that is, in a perfect world, what everybody wants is to have the answer to everything on demand, where they are, when they are, for whatever purpose that suits them. And so long as you remember that, most trends fall into place and most innovation falls into place. Therefore, we want to be mobile. Of course we want to be mobile, not because we care about being mobile, but we're usually not tethered to a desktop. Therefore, anything we want, we're going to want on a device that fits in our pocket, which pretty much predicts a lot of what's coming. So anything you may want, you're going to have it on your mobile, which predicts 4G networks. It predicts new changes in silicon design. It predicts handheld form factors. It predicts the forthcoming, not yet admitted tablet by Apple. And it predicts the notion that we would use our hands in intuitive gestures using haptic technology, which is how the iPhone works. Because once again, it's one less obstruction between us and asking and getting what we want. Right? So when people ask, what is Twitter? Twitter itself was merely intended to update people as to what other people were doing, a perfectly inane activity. But it has quickly transformed itself into a tool for real-time information flow. And in fact, that's what it is. It's not a business in itself. It's merely evidence of what comes next. Therefore, if we want social networks not because they're new. They're not. Social networks exist as long as we've had networks of friends. We want to know what they're up to, and we want them to know what we're up to, right? That's an enabling technology that permits it to happen. Twitter makes it faster. So everything's, whether we like it or not, everything will go real time, as fast as it can. And what comes after everything being real time? I suspect information overload and tools to turn it off.
Bevo